It is an incredible honor to guest host Jeopardy.
In 2023, one decision erased Mayim Bialik from television almost overnight. What looked like a simple scheduling change was anything but behind closed doors. A line had been crossed, and Hollywood does not forgive that easily for more than a year. The truth stayed buried under polite statements and corporate silence. Then in 2025, Mayim Bialik finally said what no one at Jeopardy wanted made public. Her exit wasn't about ratings, it wasn't about chemistry, it was consequence, a punishment delivered quietly, professionally, and without mercy. What happened behind the scenes exposed how power really works in Hollywood and what it costs when you refuse to fall in line. This isn't just the story of a game show, it's a warning, because when you choose principle over obedience, the industry remembers and it responds. Mayim Bialik was born on December 12, 1975. In San Diego to parents Beverly and Barry Bialik. Her family history stretched across Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary, where generations of Jewish immigrants fled persecution and rebuilt their lives with little more than hope. They eventually settled in the Bronx, carrying faith, tradition, and stories passed down through struggle. Her father chased creative dreams through writing and small businesses that rarely succeeded. Her mother taught drama and quietly introduced her daughter to theater before she could even understand what a stage was. When the family later moved to Los Angeles, life did not suddenly become glamorous. Money was tight. Fame was never the goal. Education was. There was also legacy. Mayim Bialik was directly related to Mayim Bialik, one of the most influential Hebrew poets in history. This connection shaped her sense of purpose. Words mattered, ideas mattered, identity mattered. She carried that weight not as pressure, but as responsibility. Growing up in Los Angeles, she lived between two worlds. At home, Jewish tradition defined daily life. Kosher food, Hebrew school, synagogue involvement, and cultural rituals were constant. Outside, she navigated a secular world that didn't always understand her background. That tension sharpened her awareness early. She learned how identity bends without breaking. She was also the only girl among three brothers. That loneliness pushed her inward. It made her observant, curious. It sparked questions about behavior, emotion, and the mind itself. Those questions would one day become her life's work. Her acting career began quietly, almost invisibly. In 1987, Mayim Bialik appeared in Beauty and the Beast, earning her SAG card at an age when most children were still figuring out who they were. The role required emotional honesty far beyond her years. She improvised lines about poverty, loss, and hardship, stories drawn directly from the struggles she heard around her kitchen table. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1988, at just 11 years old, Mayim Bialik was cast as the younger version of Bette Midler in Beaches. It wasn't a lucky break, it was earned through relentless persistence. She auditioned week after week for 4 straight months. Each time, she showed up wearing a red wig, brown contact lenses, and layers of heavy makeup under blinding studio lights. When filming began, the pressure intensified. Bette Midler didn't treat her like a child actor. When Beaches premiered in December 1988, it became a cultural phenomenon almost instantly. Audiences wept, critics praised the performances. The theme song, "Wind Beneath My Wings," climbed to the top of the charts and went on to win Grammy Awards overnight. Mayim Bialik went from an unknown child to a recognizable face across America. Her life split into a clear before and after, but behind the applause, the pressure began to mount. While working on Webster, she endured teasing and bullying from peers on set, learning early that success often attracts cruelty. On Pumpkinhead, filmed in 1988 and released in 1989, she was exposed to graphic horror effects that deeply unsettled her. Fake blood, monster suits, and violent scenes blurred the line between make-believe and fear. By the age of 13, she entered therapy for the first time. Childhood fame had already begun leaving emotional scars. Then came Below SSOM, premiering in 1990. Blossom didn't just succeed, it exploded into American living rooms. The series ran for 5 seasons, producing 114 episodes, and drew over 14 million viewers per episode. At its peak, at just 14 years old, Mayim Bialik became a household name. Her face instantly recognizable, her voice familiar in millions of homes. But fame came with isolation. She worked from early morning until late at night while her peers lived normal teenage lives. Her parents divorced during the show's run, as she hid the pain from castmates and the public paparazzi camped outside her home. Producers fueled false romance rumors with Joey Lawrence to boost ratings. She won awards, she earned praise, yet she made far less than many child actors of her era, earning roughly $15,000 per episode in the early seasons. She saved almost everything she was already planning an escape when Blossom ended in 1995. Hollywood offered her more of the same, dozens of nearly identical roles. She rejected them. All at 19, she walked away from fame and enrolled at UCLA to study neuroscience Hebrew. And Jewish studies fans were stunned. Industry insiders laughed. She waited tables to pay tuition. She struggled academically due to undiagnosed ADHD and landed on probation. She considered quitting instead. She found focus through research on Prader-Willi syndrome, a genetic disorder tied to obsessive behavior and appetite dysregulation. Studying the brain helped her understand her own. She earned her bachelor's degree in 2000 and declined offers from Harvard and Yale, choosing to stay in Los Angeles near family in 2007. She completed her PhD in neuroscience at UCLA. Specializing in the hypothalamus and hormone regulation, her research on oxytocin and vasopressin reshaped how scientists understood behavior in children with Prader-Willi syndrome. Her work proved that biology, not parenting failure, was at the root of many symptoms. She published under pseudonyms to avoid bias against her acting background. She became living proof that intellect and entertainment did not have to cancel each other out. For years, Hollywood insisted you could only be one or the other. Mayim Bialik shattered that assumption simply by existing. She didn't hide her science. She didn't downplay her intellect. She carried both into every room, even when it made people uncomfortable. In 2010, fate called again. She walked into an audition for a sitcom. She had never watched The Big Bang Theory at first glance. The role of Amy Farrah Fowler looked small, 6 lines, 1 episode, nothing permanent. But something clicked immediately. She recognized the character not as a stereotype, but as someone real. She had studied men like Sheldon Cooper in laboratories for years. Brilliant, socially rigid, emotionally literal. She didn't imitate them, she understood them. The episode aired, and everything changed by season 4. She was promoted to series regular. Amy Farrah Fowler quickly became a fan favorite, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she felt authentic. Her performance came from left science, not rehearsed behavior. Behind the scenes, Mayim Bialik quietly corrected scripts, protected scientific accuracy, and pushed back when dialogue crossed into parody. Respect wasn't handed to her, she fought for it. Patiently and persistently. Recognition followed. She earned 4 Emmy nominations and eventually negotiated pay equality, reaching $450,000 per episode in a rare move. The original cast accepted significant pay cuts to help close the gap, a moment that quietly reshaped conversations about fairness in television. But success didn't erase struggle behind the scenes. She navigated divorce, mental health challenges, and physical trauma. In 2013, a devastating car accident nearly cost her finger. Multiple surgeries followed. She missed episodes, then she returned steady, prepared, professional, never asking for special treatment. In 2021, she stepped into another sacred space, Jeopardy. After Alex Trebek, no hosting role carried more weight. Mayim Bialik hosted 92 episodes, bringing warmth, curiosity, and intelligence to the podium. Some viewers embraced her style, others clung to tradition. Still, she earned an Emmy nomination and was named official co-host alongside Ken Jaynan. Then came the 2023 Writers Guild strike, and once again, Mayim Bialik refused to cross a line. Sony executives were furious. Ken Jennings continued hosting her episodes, vanished when offered limited alternatives. She refused. She wanted fairness or nothing. In December 2023, her removal was announced. By August 2024, her name disappeared from the Jeopardy website entirely. She lost nearly $2 million in income. In 2025, she confirmed what many suspected: her firing was directly tied to her strike support. Hollywood had made its example. The aftermath was relentless. IRS audits questioned her wellness brand. Book controversies resurfaced. Old parenting advice was weaponized. Appearances were canceled. Sales dropped, yet her influence grew elsewhere. Her podcast surpassed 10 million downloads. Her books sold over 500,000 copies at UCLA. Female enrollment in neuroscience rose by 15%, inspired in part by her visibility. In 2025, Mayim Bialik announced a memoir that would finally connect Hollywood, trauma, science, and years of enforced silence. The industry paid attention because she has never stayed quiet when truth mattered. Her story was never about fame. It was about cost. Integrity has a price. So does standing still when others demand obedience. She lost power, protection, and money, but she kept her voice. If this story changed how you see Hollywood.
Like, share, and subscribe for more untold truths behind the spotlight. Thanks for watching.